So I got recommendations online of the best store to go get planted aquarium stores, and it is OSA, and we've just arrived. This is going to be really exciting. It's the OSA Aquarium Superstore. All right, kids, we got our supplies. We're ready to go start scaping this tank. We went with the dragon stone. We got a sweet tree. This thing's gonna look pretty awesome. What is up, beautiful fish lovers? And today we are going to do the aquascaping of the Innovative Marine Fusion Aquarium. This is the Encore, and we are gonna do one of the 10-gallon sections. We're gonna do the freshwater section. So the first thing that you gotta do when you're thinking about building an aquascape for a freshwater tank is conceptualize what you wanna build the aquascape around. You're gonna have plants, and you're gonna have some structure, and you're gonna have substrate. Generally, the first thing you pick out is going to be your structure. For me, I chose dragonstone. Now, dragonstone is this awesome rock that has this very cool pattern on it. It's almost an elliptical type shape with a bunch of divots, and they generally go one direction. So it gives this sense of direction in the aquarium. A lot of times you'll see them oriented in a certain way across the tank, so there might be a bunch of little spikes, maybe at an angle, and that's a great base to build it around. I got this piece right here, and this piece looks like it would be absolutely perfect to go in like here, and that would be a really cool looking piece in the tank. But I also wanted a bonsai tree, and so I had to find a way to actually make use for a bonsai tree type thing in the tank. So what I think I'm gonna do for this structure is I'm gonna have it here kind of towards the front and sticking out across. Now, what that's gonna be able to do is help me create some perspective in my tank. So I'm gonna put the largest piece of rock up front and smaller pieces in the back. That's gonna create some perspective that you're up close and then moving far away. And then the next thing that I'm gonna do to create additional perspective is I'm going to slope the substrate. So I'm gonna have the substrate lower in the front and higher in the back. Now, what I'm thinking about for the back is I want kind of like a cliff or something in the background so you can see, but of course, this rock has smaller, finer textures, which actually makes it look like it's farther away, even though it's the same type of dragonstone. And it's gonna be smaller. I'm gonna prop it up on another piece of dragonstone. I haven't figured out which piece it's gonna be, but maybe something like this. And then I'm gonna pack the substrate around it just to keep it all in place. And so I'm gonna have something like that in the back with substrate, and it's gonna look really cool, especially from a side angle. Dead on, we're gonna have to slope up the gravel here to kind of give you that perspective, and you'll see that a little more clear in just a minute. So now that we've got the main features of rock put in, the other piece that I want to put in is this piece, but I really don't know where to put it. This would be good if it was a slanted piece, but it's really looking like it's going to be too big to use. So for now, I'm going to leave it out. Maybe in the future, I'm going to work it in the tank. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually rinse this dragonstone. One thing about it is it gets pretty dirty, so I've got a bucket of water right here, and I'm just gonna dump it in and kind of rinse the stone off. I'm trying not to get too much water in the tank right now, but I'll just show you this water, and you can see for yourself how dirty this dragonstone is. So this is this one piece of dragonstone, and look how cloudy that water is just from one piece. So if you are doing this, I just highly recommend that you rinse it. Doesn't take a lot. And of course, if you don't rinse it all the way, eventually that color will settle out. But this way, the tank won't be completely dark as soon as we set it in. Let's go ahead and wash some of the other pieces too. Okay, so this rock is just so dirty, so muddy. I don't know how, you must have to pressure wash this to actually get all the mud off of it, but there's tons of basically clay. So it's probably gonna take a while for this aquarium to actually clear up. But if you can see what I'm doing here, I have this small piece here, that's gonna be kind of like a bridge to help hold the sand. And then this piece here is gonna be like the final peak in the back. So this is gonna be some far off mountain, and it's gonna take a lot of work to really create the sense of depth that we want here. I'm gonna use two types of substrate. The first substrate I hear is called this Aquascape, and this is black humate. This is gonna be the primary substrate that I'm gonna grow the plants in, but I also have some fine sand that I'm gonna use. And as I'm making the sand run, I want the sand to be really wide out in the front here and then curve around in the back. As I build out that sand run, I'm going to use note cards, which I have here, to try to help divide the sand from the hue. So now that we have our rocks kind of how we want it, like I said, it just looks like a pile of rocks now, but I think it's really gonna come together once we start putting the hume in. We're gonna just start doing that right now. I'm gonna start by dumping it in the back, because that's where I'm gonna need the most. So that's a little bit just to kind of hold stuff in place. Now what I'm gonna try to do is use these cards to help make a little river channel. And that river channel is gonna be full of sand, and that's gonna curve up behind here. It's gonna go in between these two things. All right, so I got my rocks in place. The big rock here, the sand's gonna swoop around, it's gonna snake up there, and it's gonna snake up there. I have these here to help kind of target my sand. And then I'm gonna have those out here, and then the whole front is gonna be sand. So there's gonna be that big cliff in the back, and then this is some rock in the distance, and hopefully it'll look good. We're gonna see how this comes out. Alright, so I got the river in here with the cards. I got the other substrate, the rocks. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it all out and see how it looks. And of course there'll be some more finishing touches to do, so just pull it out really slowly from up high. See how it turns out. I have a little bit more of the white sand than the surrounding areas, which is fine because I'll be able to push it flat on top of everything, make a tiny kind of like capping unit. Might be a little generous on the sand. Yep, just a little generous on the sand, guys. You gotta be careful with that. But this will lay it all in place, and then we'll polish it up. But so there's the river. Like I said, now it's time to polish it. So here's the tree, and it's already been planted. So the tree will go in just like that. And there we go. Next, we're gonna put on the light. For now, we're gonna use this Innovative Marine Prime. This is a saltwater light, but this one will actually work for us. We'll just change the color spectrum. All right, it's time to make the last batch of water to fill this guy up. We're using Premier. This removes chlorine and chloramines, and it's still a new bottle, so it's really full, so I've been spilling it everywhere. But for me, just half a milliliter of this is all we need to take everything out. Let's give it some time to clear up the water and we'll see how it looks. Before we check out the final view of the tank where it's at now, let's see what my first fish tank is up to on his build.
Puff Daddy Reef, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my Encore build. I'm gonna turn you guys around, give you the 2-minute tour, show you what I've done, and maybe give you some of my thoughts about where I plan to go with these two builds. Puff Daddy Reef, that's pretty much all I got for you, so back to you.
Thanks, my first fish tank. So to recap on this tank, I decided to go freshwater on one side, and I'm going with Dragonstone. After I rinsed that, I set up a multi-tiered structure, and then I added note cards to help separate the two types of substrate I'm going to be using, sand and then a hume pellet on the outside. The hume is going to be used to grow plants and probably dwarf baby tears, and the sand is just going to be a visual open space look that shrinks to the back to increase the depth of field. We also have a nice slope in this tank, and that's going to help make the tank appear a lot longer and deeper. And so we got it all set up, added a little tree, and then added water. And this is going to be pretty awesome. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now, we haven't planted the dwarf baby tears or the moss in the back yet, but that's going to come in the next video. Here is the grand reveal. So here it is, guys, and sorry the water is still a little bit cloudy, but you can see it looks really good with that tree there, really bringing forward the picturesque landscape, and then you can kind of see the river dissolves into the back. And the cool thing about this, it looks good from both angles. In fact, this angle, side angle, almost looks cooler. So I'm very pleased with how it turns out. I'm just going to give you a couple shots once the water cleared, and this is what it looks like with clear water. Hope you enjoy that. And this is step one of the build off. Thanks again for tuning in on today's episode of Puff Daddy Reef. I hope you're enjoying the build off. This is my first freshwater tank in at least 5 or 6 years, so I'm a little bit new. I'm probably going to do a lot of things wrong. I ordered some plants and I planted those, so you'll see that in the next update. Also, I'm doing a lot of crazy stuff on the saltwater side. It's actually going to be very, very hard for me to do. I'm doing something that I've never seen anyone do before, ever in history. So maybe someone's done it, but I haven't seen it yet. And so you definitely stay tuned for that. That's going to come up. Once again, thank you very much for My First Fish Tank for helping contribute to this video. And also check out Beeves Reef and Cinder or Coral Gal. They're also doing a build like this, so you can catch their Instagram and their other accounts that's on YouTube. So I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching. Buff Daddy Reef.